Hey everybody, welcome to our second live stream of the day. What a great way to spend a Friday afternoon. I hope you're as excited as I am. Thanks everyone for joining, and thanks to everyone who came to the motivation evidence-based study tips live stream, which was at 4. You can still check it out if you want to. Just head over to our channel and you can watch it. It's nice to everyone to be back. Today we're going to be going over English language paper 2. We did paper 1 a few days ago and what to expect. So we're doing these ones a little bit before the exam, and when it gets a bit closer, we'll probably do a night before one as well. As ever, any questions you have, chuck them in the chat and I'll do my best to answer them. We're going to go over a predicted paper today. And we're going to go over the format of the exam so you can go in knowing exactly what to expect. So there'll be no nasty surprises. Hey, Katie, thanks for joining. And for those of you who have been to a live stream before, you'll know this guy or gal. We've got the gong ready, so that there'll be some questions. When you get them right, boom, we hit the gong and irritate everyone around us, which is just a fun way to spend a Friday. Who can tell a lie? Oh crap, I haven't got my microphone on. It's plugged in though, so if you couldn't hear me, sorry about it. Oh, hey guys, thanks to everyone who's joining again. Nice to see you on the chat. Okay, cool. So what are we talking over for paper 2 today? We're going to go over the format of the paper. We're going to go over some tips and tricks for the creative writing section at the end, because that can throw a lot of people off. Go over some techniques. Gong Gang represent. I don't know, this is a personal thing. I think paper 2 can be a little bit harder because you have to write to persuade or evaluate or something like that. Whereas paper 1 is a bit more descriptive. It's more like just like describe the picture or whatever. So I think paper 2 can be a bit trickier. You've also got to compare and contrast texts in paper 2. But it's personal preference. Some people prefer writing to persuade or find paper 2 easier. So just like before, we'll go over the different types of question types, how much each is worth, and give some suggestions on how much timing you should spend on all of them. If you're wondering where all of these tips and tricks come from, like all of our courses are written for by teachers and examiners. So that's where the Seneca secrets come from. Yeah, so we'll go over leaflets. So you can make the stream at 4. We talked for lowering stress. We talked about chunking revision into nice little manageable sections, revising in like 25-minute intervals, and also positive visualization. So just imagine yourself going into the exam hall and doing really well. There's some really cool studies that showed how positive visualization can help reduce anxiety and stress. The video will be like online now. I think it automatically gets uploaded. So go and have a look at it. So if you stray away from the form of the writing on language paper 2, it depends. It will be hard because it's a banded mark. It will be hard to get in the top 2 bands because you're writing specifically for a specific purpose. But a lot of the formats, like a letter or a leaflet, just make sure you remember, like the letter leaflet, you need to stick to that if you want to be getting in those top bands. So make sure you look at the type of question. Yes, of course, we'll be going through last time we finished with a longer answer question. So this time, why don't we start with it? We're going to go over a top level answer together in full, just so you can have a little look at what to expect and what a model answer would look like. So I will, I'll share my little screen with y'all and keep the questions coming in. I'll stop singing. Someone yesterday told me I couldn't sing, which is true, but it still hurt. It still hurt. So we are gonna go through a paper 2 question. Okay, so screen is all shared. So what we need to do for this one is in the paper 2 part B section, for the longer one, you're going to be asked to give your own view on a subject, and you'll have to express your view in the form of like a newspaper article. It could be a speech, it could be a letter, or it could be another genre. Make sure you look at the format. It's really important if you want to get in the top bands. We're doing paper 2 because we have done, Oh my God, you guys are already ahead on the questions. You've done a paper one, so we're doing a paper 2-1 now, just so the videos are ready, so you've got a few days to watch them. But check out the paper one, but a lot of the stuff we go through will still be useful for that. So let's go through a nice little example, and I'll just say like things to remember for paper 2. Always remember the format, and remember it's going to be like a persuade or inform or argue a point, okay? So the example, one of the Seneca predicted papers that we've got is children have so many opportunities today, they have better education, access to technology, and live in a society which values children. Produce an article for a broadsheet newspaper arguing for or against this quotation. So broadsheet newspaper, do we know what kind of newspaper that is? So it's not something like a tabloid or something like a gossip column. Broadsheet, maybe something like The Guardian or whatever. So it's going to be quite formal. So always think about the audience. Now, before we go into the answer, the first thing we do is we've got to have a good plan. Like, we all love a good plan, okay? So how would we, there are 2 elements of the plan. I think my face has disappeared again. I don't know why it does this sometimes. I'll bring it back. Don't you come in. There'll be like a nice countdown. It'll be dramatic. It's going to be great. Okay. Okay. Cool. So we're going to want to plan the essay, and when we're planning an essay, when we're planning this kind of passage, there are 2 things you need to think about. One, you need to think about the structure of your argument, and the other is you need to think about the different techniques you're going to use, because those are the 2 things that you are marked on, okay? So the different kind of, let's go over the different type of techniques that you can use in this one. So the things that are important for when you're doing persuasive writing techniques is you want to include things like rhetorical questions. You want to include things like using the imperative. So you should do this, you should do that. You want to do stuff like emotive language. You want to use statistics. Make sure you're getting some kind of quote in there. Yes, I agree. You should spend about 5 minutes planning. You want to have quotes from experts. You want to have a range of punctuation. You're going to want to use discourse markers as well. So discourse marker is something like firstly, secondly. It tells the reader where in your argument you are. And you want to have a variety of structures. So your techniques, that's what's really important, because that's what like a good chunk of your marks are going to come from. Now, the other thing you do is have a very coherent argument. So make sure you have, the other part of your plan needs to be for content and ideas. So what are your main points going to be, and how are you going to argue them? So for this example, what we're going to do is go to the top level answer. So this is the top level answer to the question. I'm going to go through and show you some of the techniques that you need to be including to get into those top bands, okay? So again, we want to vary our sentence structure. So straight away from the beginning, we can see that we have a nice short sentence to start the paper. I'm trying to multitask, and it's just difficult for me on a Friday afternoon. So you want to start with a nice short sentence. So it's nice, it's impactful. The snowflake generation. It tells you, thank you. Face will be coming back shortly. I don't know why it keeps going. Technology is just not my friend today. But for everyone pointed that out, Gong, thank you. You got my back. I got your back. It's all good. So again, we want to vary our sentence structure. So again, straight off the bat, we've got a nice short sentence that examiner can start putting you up the bands, okay? So the snowflake generation, soft citizen, firmly aware of their rights. So this is a nice example of a use of 3. So when you're describing something or making a point, try and do it in 3s. Tips from examiners and teachers, because they're the people who write. We get all the tips from the people who write the courses. So that's where these tips are coming from. So they are legit. The opportunities presented to the boys and girls in the 21st century are outrageous examples of how indulgent the world has become. So this is a really good example. We want to be using strong adjectives because we're trying to prove a point. So we've got words like outrageous, very emotive language. These are the kind of things you want to be doing. And just like in paper one, make sure you have a list of the techniques you want to include in your answer, just so you can tick them off as you go. So just have a list of like use of three, short sentences, whatever. In terms of the amount of paragraphs, it does vary. You can have some like short, impactful paragraphs, like one sentence ones, but the paragraphs will be shorter than something like an essay. But I would aim for like page and a half, 2 pages of writing. Other good techniques, we want to be including quotes. That's what's going to help because it gives extra evidence. And you're going to want to be, again, still varying your sentence structure. So here we've got a nice longer sentence to contrast with the shorter sentences earlier. You're going to be wanting to offer counter arguments as well. So any good argument needs to have counter arguments. So here, it talks about there are still difficulties in modern society, and that the children today still do have difficulties. So it's important to offer a counter argument to whatever argument you're going. It can really help just give some extra solidity to your argument. And other things we want to be including, we want to be using different types of punctuation. So we've got like a nice hyphen there, which is a good way to link sentences. We want to be including stuff like rhetorical questions. But what of those without such a ticket to life sees how much opportunity comes their way? That's a really good way to engage with the reader. It makes it a very engaging argument because you're actively asking the reader. Children certainly, they do have it better. So again, we love a good quote. Maybe quote the question, make it really obvious that you are answering what needs to be answered. And again, this even ends with a nice rhetorical question. So again, this is I would pause or like when this is done, or like take a screenshot of this, just as a good idea of a really good top level answer. Okay. So the last you said answer all bullet points for English questions. So I'm just reading through the questions. Answer all bullet points. Don't know if I don't remember saying answer everything in bullet points. You should definitely like bullet point your plan and stuff like that. In one of the for this kind of question, definitely don't bullet point. Write in full sentences. And yes, there is a paper one of these videos. We thought we'd get ahead and do the paper 2 one now because it's going to be a busy old week next week with live streams. So you've got paper 1 and you've got paper 2, double English preparation. So good. So that was just some quick tips on how to structure this. So make sure you have a read of this answer and look out for the things like those nice impactful sentences, nice rhetorical questions, use of 3, use of emotive language, adjectival phrases, different punctuation, all of those things you need to do. And very importantly, make sure you read the format that you need to write it in. It could be a letter, it could be a leaflet. So make sure you're writing in the right style because you need to, and bear in mind the target audience. So this is a broadsheet newspaper. So again, it's a different type of audience than perhaps like a leaflet that you're distributing to a teenager. So think about the audience you are writing for. Okay, so next, let us move on to the other sections. So what are the other sections going to look like? Well, so we'll go through each section. We won't like read the whole text because like, honey, we ain't got time. And I'll just give you some little tips for each of the different questions, okay? So for the first question, the paper, it starts out quite, I don't know why my face keeps disappearing today. Yeah, it's the stream for paper 1 is on the channel. Otherwise, I will link it. I will link it up I'll link it up afterwards. So how does section A work? Well, section A is a nice start to the paper. You've got to read a section of the paper, and then they'll give you some options, and you've got to say which ones are right and which ones are wrong. I'm just bringing Jono back. So the first question, you only want to be spending about 5 minutes on this question, and you're going to be wanting to look at the different answers, and then you just need to say which ones are right and which ones are correct. So again, you don't want to be spending more than about 5 minutes on that paper. I would say for the question asking about titles and subtitles, if that is appropriate to the type of thing you're writing, there's nothing wrong with using titles and subtitles. A typical newspaper article, I wouldn't really have, they might have like a headline, but there wouldn't be tons and tons of like subheadings, but 1 or 2 would be fine. Really good question. So again, for section 1, you get a nice, easy, don't spend more than about 5 minutes on the first question. Okay, so question 2. Now, question 2 gets a bit lively because you're going to get 2 texts, you're going to get 2 sources, and you're going to have to compare them. Now, my tip for this is make sure you read the question before you read the text, because then you know what you need to look for. And in terms of reading the sources fully, I would say you want to skim read them very quickly. You do need to have an idea of both of the sources. So I would quickly read the question so you know which parts you need to look out for when you go back to read the two sources. And then, so with this one, summarize how differently the children described in source A and the girl described in source B play. So you know you're looking for examples of how they play. So when you go and skim read, you can be skim reading for the word play or whatever it is. And it can just make it a lot easier. It's an 8-mark question. You want to be making about 4 points, not bullet points, 4 points. And structure them in paragraphs, okay? English paper, we're wanting to write in paragraphs and sentences and all those lovely things. So read the question, skim read it, and then in your answer, make sure you use quotes. Quotes are really, really important, and use that classic paragraph structure of like point, evidence, point, example, evidence, and then link it to the question. Good way to structure these, but I would say don't spend too long reading all those sources. Okay, so that is what happens with question 2 in the English language paper. Oh, there are people outside. They're going to the pub? What? Guys, this is so mean. They're literally just like, we're out. Okay, so we're nearly done. Do you want to guys come say hi? Where are you guys going?
I'm going to the riverside.
Going to the riverside. Okay, I will join you there. I can't believe this. Guys, can you believe this? They're leaving me in the hot, sweaty room while I go and sit in the sun. Typical Stephen. It's all Stephen.
Stephen's making us.
Oh, loving the cap, Stephen. Okay, let's burn through. Let's burn these guys. The guys are loving it. Okay, I'll see you guys there. Okay, so thank you, nothing 1 2 3 4 7 7. So for this question, you don't need to, for question 2. I'll get back into this. I'm probably going to move super fast because they're going to the pub, and I'm like, it's Friday, it's been a long week. Normally they finish at 6. So you need to read both sentences, use the, find the points of similarity, and use quotation. So you're just looking for the differences and the similarities. Okay, you don't need to be worrying about the use of language, okay? Use of language is going to come in the next question. Can you believe it? Tension, building it up. Cool. So you don't need to comment about language. You're just looking at the differences in the way play is portrayed in the 2 sources. Okay, so fun. Okay, question 3. Are you ready for question 3? I know I'm ready for question 3. Any questions you have, chuck them in, because once we go through question 4, it's Friday. John's gonna be out. So discuss the author's use of language. So this is when that language question comes in. So you don't need to worry about it for question 2, but in question 3, honey, we're talking language. You're going to want to have to read a section of the source. Make sure you stick to those line references. Again, we've been told from the examiner reports, people don't always stick to them. And then if you're not quoting something that's in that line references, out, you're not going to get it. So make sure you stick to those line references, comment on the writer's methods and how they want to make the reader feel, imagine, or think, okay? Those are what we want. For question 2, yes, you can talk about what's implied. It can be implicit or explicit. So when I say don't talk about language analysis, I mean, you don't need to talk about how the play is making the reader feel, imagine, or think. It's just about in A, play is portrayed like this, and in B, play is portrayed like this. So that's what you're going to be looking at. Again, for this question, you're going to want for question 3, when you are writing about the language, think about the methods, and you want to write about 4 of those methods in detail. Remember, it's better to give lots of information about fewer points and make lots of little points. So write a lot about a little. So focus on 4 good uses. Remember to start all paragraphs with the writer. And in your analysis, make sure you're referring to the reader. So the reader does this. Okay, the reader does that. What? So that is what we want. And you're so welcome. And then are you ready? We are going on to question 4. What's the last question we're going to go through? We're going on to question 4, and honey, is it going to be a ride? So again, you need to use source A and source B, and you're going to have to compare the way the writers portray their perspectives and feelings about the children they write about. Okay, so it's a bit of a beast of a question. We're talking 16 marks, so there's going to be 20 minutes. That I would advise spending about 20 minutes on this question. And the things you want to be asking yourself is, how do the writers get you to see their point of views? What mood or impression are they trying to convey? Like, how do you know? How do the writers use, what techniques are they using to use their point of view? So again, it's a technique question, and you want to have 4 to 5 well-analyzed points written nicely in paragraphs, okay? Remember that viewpoints and perspectives are sometimes implicit, so they can be just suggested. And you have to start each point. Not necessarily every paragraph doesn't need to start with the writer, but if you like, it can be a good, if you're not sure how to start a paragraph, starting with the writer can be good. It can be very good to do that. Just as like a default. Otherwise, if it's like a second paragraph and you're building on a point, you could start with like a discourse marker or something like that. I think the key thing is just to remember to refer to it as to refer to whoever wrote it as the writer. So going back to question 4, other good sentence stems you can use are like the writer is trying to convey, or the writer presents, and then contrast it with similarly, however, by contrast. So you're wanting to compare. Remember this one, question 4, you need to talk about the literary techniques, okay? And how do they use those techniques to convey their point of view, okay? So, okay, so that's a really good question from WJ. I would say if you struggle to finish timing wise, I would say just pay really close attention to monitoring it. Monitoring your time, like be really strict. So I would say for paper 2, you want to spend like 5 minutes on question 1, 10 minutes on question 2, 15 on question 3, 20 on question 4, leaving yourself about 50 minutes for question 5. And just be really strict with yourself with that timing. Because if you're like 10 minutes and you're still on question 1, honey, you got to move on. That question's only worth 5 minutes. Some people like to start with the descriptive writing passage. I would say it's always good to read the longer question first. So I would always read the section B question and then go back to section A, just because then like the juices get flowing, you're getting inspired, you're thinking like, oh, what am I going to write about today? I don't know. Maybe I'll write about like how good YouTube live streams are. Maybe that would be the question. Subtle. I think it's good to read the longer question first at the end and then go back, but just be really strict with your timing to make sure you can get all the marks. Also, starting with question 4 is difficult because you'll have to read all the passages again, whereas in 1, 2, 3, you've already started to read the passages. So I'd say just be strict with your timing. Okay, so boom, we're there. We've done it. That is what you can expect on paper 2. I hope that was a useful run through. First of all, thank you for everyone that joined. I know it's like a Friday and there's like probably a million other things you would rather be doing than coming to a cute little live stream with Jono. But thank you very much for joining. If you're around next week, which you probably will be because you've got exams, I'll be doing some more live streams. So let me know what these subjects that are required. Thank you very much. You're all very welcome. I will enjoy going down the pub. you guys, again, so nice to be able to spend this time with you guys and go over some tips and tricks. I hope these are useful live streams. Keep giving me feedback. I want to make them as useful as possible because I really enjoy doing them, but I want them to be good for you. Have a lovely weekend, guys. Keep up all your hard work. And make sure you subscribe for updates because we'll be doing a bunch of crap next week. It's going to be mad. Jono's going to be tired by Friday. Have a lovely weekend. Good luck with your studies and see you next week.